Our main character Clay is given a lecture by her father about dungeons and the horrors that dwell within them in the opening scene of Dungeon People. A few years go by. In a random dungeon, Clay is up against a beast akin to Cerberus. At the same time, Clay tells the crowd that her father disappeared into the dungeon. After defeating the monster, Clay takes the gem from it. She then considers some advice that her allies in the Thieves' Guild provided her. Only the 7th floor of this dungeon has been reached by previous low and high-grade explorers, according to Clay. She affirms that the location of this dungeon is Antimerg. The monster in this dungeon, according to Clay, is the guardian of the 8th floor because she overcome a challenge that others were unable to. Clay, on the other hand, believes she isn't at her father's level and questions what floor her father climbed before disappearing. Clay ducks behind a wall after spotting 3 goblins nearby. She claims that at the 6th floor, monsters begin to form alliances. Clay tosses a gem in the goblin trio's direction. She kills one of the goblins who is weaker than the others while they are distracted. She then dispatches the last of the goblins with her unique dagger. Clay gathers them when they change into jewels. According to Clay, monsters frequently transform into jewels. She contends that instead of looking for treasure chests, many explorers choose to battle monsters. Clay opens a door that he stumbles upon. She confronts and defeats a guardian minotaur. The walls crumble behind Clay and the Minotaur Guardian during their battle. This development shocks both combatants. After a brief discussion about this disaster, Clay is instructed to look behind the broken wall by the Minotaur Guardians. The guarding Minotaur indicates that the room the two have located in the basement is a private room. At the door to the private chamber, Clay feels a powerful aura and wonders if the room even exists. A female walks into the quiet space. She finds it surprising that the wall of the dungeon fell in. The girl welcomes the guardian Minotaur, asks him to go back to his station, and inquires as to if he is speaking with Clay. The guardian Minotaur becomes evasive and begins speaking like a typical bull. The girl presses the Minotaur Guardian with more inquiries as she recognizes his intentions. The girl is told the truth by the guardian Minotaur. The girl realizes what happened, approaches Clay, and requests that he go with her somewhere so she can tell him what happened. Clay is apprehensive to put his trust in the girl, but she reassures him that everything will be all right as they are checking over the living quarters. The girl introduces herself as Bilahelia Langdas as they seat down. Langdas verifies that she is the manager of the dungeon and informs Clay that due of her position and senses, she is experienced in her field. After that, Langdas invites Clay to join her team. Although Langdas acknowledges that not everyone can reach the 7th floor, she says she would ask another member of the Explorers Guild. Clay muses over Langdas's position and the layout of the dungeon. Is she the boss of the dungeon? She asks Langdas. Langdas claims to be the last boss in the dungeon. Clay invites Langdas to a challenge. Should the former prevail, Langdas has to let her to go. She is going to work for Langdas if Clay loses. While Langdas is fine with it, she cautions Clay that she won't hold back. Thinking back to her father's journey through this labyrinth, Clay muses on whether he survived to reach the 11th floor. Her father, she theorizes, lost to Langdas. Although Clay is aware that Langdas would not be happy with her answer, he still wants to ask about her father. Clay and Langdas are teleported to the last chamber of the dungeon. Langdas calls for her staff and informs Clay that she intends to battle her without any restrictions. Using everything she's learned from her father and her dungeon explorations, Clay strikes Langdas. Langdas finds Clay's strategies impressive. With a step back, the former casts a spell on Clay. After a battle, Clay collapses and moments later awakens in bed. Clay is greeted by Langdas, who says they are in her bedroom. They're on the 11th floor, she informs Clay, and she mended the wall from earlier. Clay is reminded by Langdas that since she lost, she needs to work for her. Clay queries Langdass about his status as a dungeon boss. According to Langdass, Clay will not be a boss, but will instead be in charge of the dungeon's operations. Not every dungeon is the same, she claims. Langdass adds that Clay will also handle jobs like filling slime receptacles, fixing traps, and interviewing monsters for employment. Although Clay acknowledges this, he warns Langdass that her employment in the dungeon may have an impact on her standing within the Thieves' Guild. Clay is reassured by Langdass that it is nothing to worry about since she will be speaking with a member of Clay's guild. When Langdass hands Clay her contract, Clay is taken aback by the salary scale. Langdass adds that she doesn't mind being paid that much. Clay remarks at the end of the episode that she finds it hard to imagine she will be working in a dungeon. The review of the episode. Although the departure of Delicious in Dungeon last month caused sadness for some, the summer 2024 anime season offers viewers another dungeon series that seems to be entertaining. Presenting Dungeon People, a show that begins with a healthy dose of comic banter between its two stars, Clay and Langdass, as well as juicy dungeon lore and excellent action. For the time being, this anime has a really comforting vibe about it, similar to that of slice-of-life media like Animal Crossing and Laid Back Camp. Furthermore, there is a hint in the first episode that Clay defends the dungeon from other explorers. It will be intriguing to watch how she employs her extraordinary dungeon exploration expertise to thwart either novice or seasoned adventurers who travel into this area. This episode also brilliantly displays Clay's accomplishments both on and off the battlefield. She has the potential to be just as strong as Langdass in the future because to her keen senses and clever tactics. It would have been wonderful if the show had shown us more of the instruction she received from her father, even though we only saw glimpses of it. Furthermore, we hope that Clay's mission to locate her father is not neglected in favor of amusing housekeeping dungeon scenes. Even though scenes like these could make people laugh out loud, there's a chance the protagonist of the program will become distracted from her main goal. All in all, this Dungeon People premiere episode was entertaining. I'm curious to see what happens with Clay and her coworkers going forward.